In 2015, self-described Democratic Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders made headlines when he sat down for an interview with CNBC and said this.
At the end of the day, you don't necessarily need a choice of 23 underarm spray deodorants or 18 different pairs of sneakers when children are hungry in this country.
Now, basically what Senator Sanders is suggesting is that too many resources are being wasted on things like 23 types of deodorants when they could be used to feed hungry children. The question is that really true? Well, first of all, we don't actually have 23 types of deodorant. It's actually more like 200 types, and that's just referencing my local Target in very rural Virginia. But were these 200 types of deodorant only made available at the expense of the poor or the hungry? For instance, if we only had 2 or 3 options instead of 200, would the poor be better off? Well, let's dive into that a little bit. Because according to the World Bank in 2021, the top 3 nations with the highest poverty rates were Madagascar, Equatorial Guinea, and South Sudan. Now, what's interesting about this is that along with having extreme poverty, these nations also have a fairly low supply of deodorant, sneakers, and a number of other consumer goods that Bernie Sanders mentioned. The reality is, hunger and poverty are actually less likely to exist in countries with an abundance of deodorants, and are far more likely to exist where there are few options for these basic consumer goods. Which begs the question, why is that? You see, contrary to the claims made by Senator Sanders, there is no necessary trade-off between having multiple varieties of deodorants and providing food for children. A claim like this might make sense if you believe that only an all-powerful government can centrally direct the resources of a complex economy. But history shows us that it's actually free markets based off of consumer demand which contribute to the improvement of the human condition far more than any government's central planning. Not to mention that the reason why you have so many options for deodorant in the first place is because you as a consumer demand them. Maybe you have allergies, maybe you have a medical condition which requires consideration, or maybe you just have certain fragrance preferences. Would you really want a government board of deodorant selection deciding what kind of product you could have access to? Would you rather producers respond to the demands of you as a consumer or respond to the demands of politicians? Because for all the claims from some socialists that it's free markets that misallocate resources and leave us all poor as a result, it's actually government central planned economies that have led to the greatest shortages. Because it's not the cost of deodorant that has skyrocketed in price or experienced shortages. In fact, the inflation adjusted cost of a typical stick of deodorant is about the same as it was in 1990. Instead, it's industries like education and healthcare that have the largest amount of government intervention and micromanagement, which have seen massive increases in prices and restrictions on the type of supply you can get in the past 30 years. And you can learn why that is by clicking right here. I'm Nick Freitas with the Y Minutes, where we challenge the popular narratives of our time. Visit our channel to subscribe and leave a comment on what topic you'd like to see us cover next.